Hey, hey, what's going on, everybody? You guys know what this is, Conversation in the Dark. Pardon me if I'm sniffling in between. My sinuses are acting up, having some sinus. I have a sinus headache, some sinus pressure. When the weather is like up and down, it's raining and then it's warm and then it's raining. And then when it's raining, it's a little damp, it's a little cold. So whenever the weather is going through different changes, it affects my sinuses. So you guys bear with me. But I wanted to share this with you guys really quickly. I know it could be somewhat hard to fathom, or if you think or what I'm getting ready to say next, it could kind of be hard to fathom, but this is a real story. So you figure I've been in my field for well over 15 years. And I have literally, so if you kind of do the math, right? Let's say if you have a family, obviously depending on geographical location, but let's say if you have a family that is involved in the system, whether that's foster care, whether that's therapy, whether that's the aftercare of family preservation, trying to keep families together, trying to put families back together, right? Mental health, people dealing with mental health, right? All the fields of helps that you can think of that involves families and individuals. So if you figure, let's just start with the family. So the individuals are individuals, but more often than not, when a person is an individual, they typically have one other person in their lives. So now you're thinking, okay, that's two people. Now we talk about families, again, depending on geographical location, but based on the field of helps that I've been in the area that I'm in the area that I've worked in, I'm sorry. You figure most of the people that are in the system in any type of way, mental health, foster care, court system stuff, they typically have a family of 3 or more. So it's usually them and 3 children. And then if it's them, the spouse, or them, the boyfriend, it's typically 3 children or more. So hear that, 3 children or more. This is like actual statistical data. So now, believe it or not, most people don't realize that a lot of people that is in the system, not everybody, you're talking about they have 4 and 5 and 6 children. So when you do that math, and all of them are not babies. So when you do that math, and now what I'm saying now is going to now process my next statement. I have helped thousands of people, from hospitals, mental health hospitals, foster care system, before they go in the system, after they come into the system, drugs, alcohol, abuse, molestation, anything you can think of. I have literally counseled, helped, support, resourced, the whole 9 yards, from children in terms of babies, infants, all the way to, I think, about 87. So I have been in the trenches for a very long time, and that matters, right? Education is amazing, but hands-on experience is also amazing. So a lot of things that I kind of say and a lot of things that I talk about, it is not just the top of my dome. It's not just, oh, I'm just saying this because this is what I think. 90% of it is pure data. And the reason why that is important for me to say is because, especially when you're talking about psychology and what have you, how the brain works, people's reactions, non-reactions, being able to understand people, why they do the things that they do, why they don't, why they're in certain situations. All of those things matter. Now mix that with the spiritual aspect, which obviously I don't go on my job speaking in tongues and saying all of that, but a lot of the people don't know the spiritual aspect. Of course, I don't hide that I have a relationship with Christ. If I'm in a conversation with somebody, it comes up, that's neither here nor there. But now mix that with the spiritual aspect of the spiritual aspect of the spirit of discernment, the gift of discernment, and me being prophetic. So you just put both of those in a cup and you'll see what you get, right? It's like when you're in chemistry class and you mix 2 chemicals together, and now we used to love to do that, and we will watch it overflow and explode or what have you. So why am I saying all of that is because I want you guys to know that when I'm talking, I'm not really just talking because I like to hear myself talk, or I'm just throwing out a bunch of opinions or what have you. I have a lot of data. When I say thousands of people, thousands of people. So imagine that's thousands of conversations. So if there's a family of 4 or more, right, and there's a boyfriend or there's a husband and spouse and multiple children, I'm talking to all of those people on an ongoing weekly basis, right? So I have data for the way children process and which is another thing. If you guys are interested in getting some coaching, some one-on-one coaching, some one-on-one assistance, whether it's yourself or, whether it's your children, but I definitely like to keep it at like 16 or higher. 16, 17, 18, but I'm available for one-on-one coaching. You can email me at JenniferCrawley86, or you can go to any of my social media pages on Instagram or Facebook and DM me a message. I'm definitely available for that. I have some slots that are still open for the month of February. But so I have a lot of data, and so this is what I want to kind of bring to the table. One thing that I find is people, doesn't matter your background, race, culture, age, we have a hard time receiving sound advice. Obviously, when we're doing okay, the way our chemicals work in our brain, it postures us to receive the advice. But I want to talk specifically from when you are in a crisis, when you are facing difficulty, when you are dealing with a lot of challenges. It is so hard for the brain to receive advice because of the chemicals that are being released, the thoughts that are running through your mind. You're having that sense of flight in terms of, what am I going to do? Your brain is processing every worst case scenario you can think of. Right? And that's releasing chemicals of sadness, fear, rejection, doubt, worry, right? So when those things are being released, imagine it's like overload. And now you have these little pieces of chemical, these little parts of chemicals that is trying to override fear. It's trying to override doubt. It's trying to override difficulty, right? And because it's so overwhelming, the fear is overwhelming, the doubt is overwhelming, the rejection is overwhelming, the sadness is overwhelming. Your brain is trying to balance the two, which then now transfers and articulates and shows up in your actions as hard to receive information, hard to put it into action. Someone could be giving you a clear-cut path of, here's how we can tackle this. Here's how this can kind of go. Here's what you have to try to work on. But your brain is going to be convincing you that there's no way this can be done. I can't see how this is going to happen. What do you mean? It's hopeless. It's this and that. So what I want to say is, you have to learn to not practice listening, receiving, and ways of healthy management only when you're in a crisis, because the odds of your body and mind and actions responding makes it more challenging. That's just the way that the chemicals work in our body. That's just the way the brain processes, right? Again, if you're standing somewhere and you see danger coming, the brain processes so quick that you don't even really realize you're thinking, save yourself, jump over the fence, go do this, go do that. That's how powerful the mind is. And so I just want to encourage you to be finding ways, even when you're doing good, always find yourself reading something that is positive, listening to something that is positive, consistently pouring into yourself. Don't let, because when it look like the devil is fake taking some time off and you think you in the clear, it's like when the pilots say flight attendants prepare for landing, because what they're saying is they have now gotten the call from I forgot what the name was. They gotten the call from the people upstairs, if you will, saying it's clear, you can land, there's no other planes in this area, the runway is clear, go ahead. But here's the thing, the pilots are constantly in preparation and in training to make sure that they can still land clearly. Even though they've done it 1,001 times, they still have a certain amount of training. Even for myself, even though that what I do, I'm trusted, I've proven myself, but guess what? Not only does the state require it, they require you to do ongoing training. Why? Because there's always different approaches. There's new information, right? You always want to stay sharp. You don't want to ever assume that you know everything, that you always have the answer. It's the same thing that for doctors and surgeons. They're always going to conferences. Why? Because there's new innovative, there's modern medicines coming out. There's new tools on different surgeries. So, that's not a bad thing. It doesn't make us less than because we're required to get ongoing training. I have to do over 100 hours in the year. And sometimes, believe it or not, it's actually more than that, right? So of ongoing trainings, assessments, and it's not just trainings. These are tests that we have to pass to keep certifications up to date and all of that. And so think about it. It should be the same thing with your life. You should constantly be putting yourself in positions to have ongoing trainings, ongoing learnings in whatever area. Don't just think because everything is okay that you still should not be brushing up on doing a check on how's your self-esteem, how's your self-worth, how are you mentally, how's your body physically. You should always be finding ways to pour into you, because what happens is you get lax or you get comfortable or you get complacent, and the devil is still prowling from to and fro, looking to still kill and destroy. He's waiting to catch you off guard. He's waiting for a momentum shift. He's waiting for you to do good. He's waiting for you to do bad. At any moment, he's waiting. He's waiting. So you have to make sure you're doing this spiritual game called life and making sure you're not getting caught. And what we like to say is don't get caught slipping. And so I hear a lot of different connotations, or people will say, I've been in therapy all of my life. Oh, I also didn't mention, me being an addictions counselor. I've covered every basis, right? So I have data from that. And people will say, I've been in therapy since I was this age, or therapy doesn't help me. But I'm like, listen, you only going to get out of therapy what you put in. The therapy you got when you was 20 is not the same therapy you're going to get when you're in your 30s, right? Therapy isn't just when something bad is going on, right? So even understanding, why do we process things the way we process? Why do we look at things the way that we process? And then I'll say, when they come to me, I'll say, tell me your last experience with therapy. Tell me this, tell me that. Okay, if they made an appointment with their doctor because they might be on medication. Well, did you tell your doctor that you're not sleeping? Did you tell your doctor you're going through a divorce? Did you tell your doctor? Well, no. Well, your doctor is only going to treat you based on what you're telling them. Of course, you have experts that can maybe pinpoint and recognize certain things, but they can't force medication on you. They can't force you to go get help. Their job is to assess based on what you're telling them. And like I said, of course, they can pick up on other things, but even if they pick up on something, they can only recommend. They can't make you. And so all these things can sound a little bit cliche, but guess what? You're only going to get out of life what you put in. You're only going to get out of love and support and encouragement what you put in. And so, we have to just make sure that, are you maximizing everything about who you are? Are you maximizing your resources? Are you maximizing your support? Are you maximizing your goals? Are you maximizing your activities? Are you maximizing the way you take care of yourself? Are you maximizing the energy you put into yourself? Because what I found is so many of us, we have a lot of illegal issues when we're not realizing you have an illegal issue with something. You have an illegal issue with therapy. What do I mean by illegal issue? Our brains will not, let's take love for an example. One person will give you a bad experience with relationships, and you will have this alt with love. I don't love people. I can't love like I used to. I don't trust people. Love and trust didn't do anything to you. It was the individual. It was that circumstance. It was that situation. It was that relationship. But what happens is you now carry the weight from relationship to relationship to relationship. And then you wonder why you keep picking unhealthy relationships. So then you have to take a step back and say, what did I do to pour back into myself? What did I do to change my perspective on love? What did I do to learn about myself, whether it's good, whether it's bad? How did I learn from that situation? And a lot of us, because of the way our chemicals are released, we don't want to put in the work. And then we have this illegal issue with life. Life is just so hard. Life is just so this. Life is just so that. But if you really sit down, one of the toughest things that is challenging for me, to be honest, as me counseling people and what have you, when they're already in a delicate spot, it can be a challenge for me to tell them the truth. To tell them you're really not, and I don't say it this way, obviously I say it in a therapeutic way, but to have to tell somebody you're really not trying, you're really not putting the effort in, you're constantly rejecting the information that is given, but then you want a different outcome, those two cannot cohabitate. So I want you to just take a moment to assess yourself for the rest of this week. Listen to your verbiage. Assess the thoughts that you're thinking and really ask yourself, are you really trying? Are you really giving it 100%? Or are you 1 foot in and 1 foot out, meaning I want good things, but I want all these good things to happen to me, but then my other foot is on the other side of I'm really not making an effort. I really don't want to divorce my thoughts. I don't want to divorce my actions. I don't want to divorce my perception, but I want all these great things to happen. I want to have a good business, but you know what? I really don't put in the energy and the effort to my business. I want to have a good marriage, but I really don't want to put in the effort and the energy in my marriage. I want to have a better relationship with my children, but I really don't put in the energy and effort to do that. Now, a complete different video would be talking about the responsibility that the other party has, but that's not what we're talking about. We're doing an individual assessment. So ask yourself, is the things that you say, can you find traceable patterns, data, and research to show that you've given 100%, if we had to put a percentage on it, that you have put your best foot forward, that you are guarding your gates, the things you listen to, right? Your ears, the things that you read or you're exposed to, your eyes, your verbiage, your mouth. Those are all gates that enter our hearts and our minds, and it's displayed in our action. Do you have selfish characteristics about yourself, especially in relationships? When you're tapped out in your marriage, are you telling your spouse you want to try, but secretly you saying, I ain't doing nothing else because they don't want to do it? This don't have nothing to do with your spouse. You have to learn that's not healthy for you. It's only going to set you up for failure. It's only going to disrupt your peace. And again, separate video. We're not talking about when somebody else is sabotaging and not working together. We're not talking about that. We're talking about, are you finding yourself saying one thing but doing another? Saying one thing but thinking another? Saying one thing publicly but privately doing something else? Saying one thing but your heart is really postured in a different way. Don't find yourself getting advice, listening to podcasts, reading books, and but you're not retaining the information to better who you are. Love y'all. We'll talk soon.